What's the most unbelievable true story you've experienced? I found a handwritten note in a library book that solved a 20-year-old missing person case. I was dropping off books at the library when my stack slipped and scattered across the counter. One book fell open and a faded piece of paper fluttered out. The handwriting was shaky but careful, like someone writing something important while nervous. It mentioned a specific bench in Riverside Park and gave a date from exactly 20 years ago. At first I thought it was just an old love note, but the last line made me freeze. If you're reading this, Michael didn't run away. Check the construction site behind Miller's Hardware. Look for the blue tarp. I asked the librarian about the book's history. She said it came from a donated box with no records. I kept staring at that note. The specific details, the urgent tone. It felt like someone's desperate attempt to leave evidence. I searched online for missing persons from that date and found him immediately. Michael Chun, 16, disappeared after school 20 years ago. Police assumed he was a runaway, but his family insisted he'd never leave voluntarily. The case went cold within months. The next day, I drove to what used to be Miller's Hardware. It's a coffee shop now, but I found the old-timers who remembered the construction project from 2004. They were building an addition to the hardware store that got abandoned when Miller went bankrupt. I called the police and explained about the note. Detective Rodriguez was skeptical until I showed him the newspaper clippings and the handwritten message. We get tips on cold cases all the time, he said, but this is oddly specific. The construction site had been paved over years ago, but ground-penetrating radar showed an anomaly in the exact area mentioned in the note. When they excavated, they found Michael's remains along with his school backpack, exactly where the note said they'd be. But here's the real breakthrough. Inside Michael's backpack was a letter he'd been carrying, a suicide note from his best friend Danny, dated the day before Michael disappeared. The letter confessed that Danny had been selling drugs at school and was about to be expelled. He couldn't face his parents and planned to end his life. Suddenly, the pieces clicked together. Michael hadn't run away. He'd rushed to stop his friend from committing suicide. The police found Danny's old address and discovered he was now a successful therapist living across town. When they showed him the evidence, he broke down completely. Danny explained that Michael had found his suicide note and came to stop him. During their struggle, Michael fell and hit his head on a concrete block. Danny panicked, thinking he'd killed his best friend. In his terrified state, he buried Michael's body and spent 20 years believing he was a murderer. But the medical examiner determined Michael died from the head injury. It was a tragic accident, not murder. Danny had been torturing himself with guilt for 2 decades over something that wasn't his fault. The handwritten note was Danny's confession. He'd been leaving copies in library books for years, hoping someone would find one and solve the case. He couldn't bring himself to confess directly, but he couldn't live with the secret either. At Michael's memorial service, Danny finally got to apologize to Michael's family. Instead of anger, they showed him forgiveness. Michael would have wanted you to live, his mother said. He died trying to save you. Don't let that sacrifice be wasted. Danny entered therapy for his trauma and started a foundation in Michael's name for suicide prevention. He told me later that finding that note was what finally allowed him to heal.